Okay, we're good there. One more time, y'all. Well, I'm recording to the cloud too on this one. Y'all bear with me for just a minute here, everybody. I accidentally stopped my thing over here, and I don't know which one I'm recording from. Your screen's sharing, participants, host, me, co-host. I'm still good. Okay, I should be good. I do believe. Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul. Tonight, we're going to continue our study with the origin and nature of thought adjusters. That's paper 107. And that is on page 1179 in the original book. Or if you have just the newer book, it's paper 107, section 2, paragraph 8. Okay, let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. We got a full house tonight. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might study your wonderful revelation. Pray that you'll watch over us tonight, open our hearts and minds that we might bless other people with this information and we might absorb it and share it with our family and friends. We thank you for all of our many blessings. We say this in the name of your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen. We might have one or two new people join us tonight that's requested to come to the meeting, so I do not know if they'll show up or not. So we'll see as the night goes on. I wonder if I can close my little window up here. Give me 1 second. Nope. Okay, that's fine. All right, so we should be recording to, I should have recorded on this one before we recorded to the cloud, but that's okay. It should be recording to the cloud. I hope if I did everything right. I'm hoping we'll have less technical problems tonight. Last time we were on this slide, and it's number 7, personalized adjusters, and there's a couple things I didn't mention that I wanted to bring out in this. First of all, they're talking about personalized adjusters in this slide, and normally the personalized adjusters, most of them come from the Paradise Sons when they do their bestowals. Okay, so that's what they're talking about here, but other adjusters serve in regular mortals, and sometimes they achieve great distinction in indwelling these mortals and teaching them things and that sort of things. And many times these mortals reject survival. Notice here it says these are subjects that rejected survival. Y'all see that? The important point of that is this: if they reject survival, this adjuster is abandoned. So normally adjuster would be reassigned to another being, right? But in this case, in many cases, the ancients of days decide to go ahead and personalize them and make them a being on their own. Okay, and that's what it says, by the recommendations of the ancients of days of their super use assignments. So there's a lot of adjusters out there that's been personalized into beings that are not fused with normal human beings. Okay, and that's the point I wanted to bring out. So they're used for other types of services and that sort of thing.
Roger?
Yes.
So it's saying that coincidentally, any mortal that the adjuster occupied, none of them survived.
No, some of these are just the adjusters where their mortals chose not to survive for one reason or another.
Oh,
okay. You remember when we talked about suicide before? How that is probably the worst possible thing you can do in this lifetime, because then the ancients of days have to decide if that was a final decision. Okay. And if it is a final decision, then they don't wake up on the mansion worlds. You follow me? So that's why it's a very serious thing when people decide to kill themselves. It's not a good thing. Even if it's assisted suicide, you just check out because, you know, you don't want to go on anymore. That's not a good thing to do. Jesus didn't do that, did he? I mean, think of it that way. He could have just checked out and not gone through the pain, but he didn't do that. So it kind of tells us that we're responsible to make sure that we go on, basically. Okay. And so that's why it's a big question as to whether, you know, when someone kills themselves, if they actually survive past this life or not. And there's no definite answer on that. You know, according to the book, it's the worst thing you can do. Right.
I think it's all in the motive.
It's all in the motive. Right. Okay. And this is just a picture of a personalized adjuster. This is someone who rejected survival, and so they were personalized. It's also a good representation, like of a creator son, that his adjuster is personalized. So they go from being this little, if you can see this here on this, kind of just a spiritual thing to actual being. All right. So that's why this is pretty important. All right. Go on. All right, Diane, would you take the first one, sweet dear?
There are many ways in which these mysterious God fragments can be classified, according to universe assignment, by the measure of success in the indwelling of an individual mortal, or even by the racial ancestry of the mortal candidate for fusion.
Okay, so they classify them by what type of being they were in before, basically. Okay. All right.
That's racism, isn't it?
I think you'd call it adjusterism.
Oh.
All right. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. 3, the Divinington home of adjusters. All universe activities related to the dispatch, management, direction, and return of the mystery monitors from service in all of the 7 super universes seem to be centered on the sacred sphere of Divinington. As far as I know, and I think we decided, I'm not sure who wrote this paper.
Archangel.
An archangel.
Right.
None
Am I
but
wrong about
adjusters
that?
and other entities of the Father have been on that sphere. It seems likely that numerous unrevealed pre-personal entities share Divinington as a home sphere with the adjusters. We conjecture that these fellow entities may in some manner be associated with the present and future ministry of the mystery monitors, but we really do not know.
Okay, so there's something, this is written by a solitary messenger, not an archangel.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So there's some things that they don't, these, even the solitary messengers, we're talking about somebody that's really high up, right? We're not talking about just some Joe Blow. All right. But according to them, all these adjusters and all these mystery monitors are sent out from Divinington. And when they're sent out from Divinington, they're assigned to people, but there's many other unrevealed pre-personal entities that share Divinington as home, and I'm sure they send those out too. So you have to assume that these other unrevealed pre-personal entities are father fragments of some type also. Okay, that's the inference here. Okay, but they think that they are either in the future or the present, they're not sure that they are going to be associated with the ministry of the thought adjusters themselves. Okay. Makes sense? All right, let's go on to the next one. Okay, Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. When thought adjusters return to the Father, they go back to the realm of supposed origin. Divinington, and probably as a part of this experience, there is actual contact with the Father's paradise personality, as well as with the specialized manifestation of the Father's divinity, which is reported to be situated on this secret sphere.
So they're assuming that the divinity of the Father himself is actually on this sphere, just like he is in paradise. Okay, so that's, you think about it this way. If you have all these fragments of God the Father on this sphere, and that's all that's there, it would be,
Of course, he'd be with maybe.
it would be a pretty divine place, right?
Uh,
I mean, that would just make sense. All right. Pam, would you take the next one, please?
Although we know something of all the 7 secret spheres of paradise, we know less of Divinington than the others. Beings of high spiritual orders receive 3 divine injunctions, and they are: 1, always to show adequate respect for the experience and endowment of their seniors and superiors; 2, is to be considerate of limitations and experience of their juniors and subordinates; 3, never to attempt a landing on the shores of Divinington.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, this is really interesting because they're talking about other beings of high spiritual order. Okay. They're not talking about thought adjusters themselves, right? Thought adjusters can come and go from the shores of Divinington all they want, but no other beings of high spiritual order are to land on Divinington or attempt to land on Divinington. So it's a reserved area. And it also says here, these 2 other things is kind of interesting. And these are all 7 of the 7 sacred spheres. And that is this. First, they need to always show adequate respect and experience for the endowments of their seniors and superiors. You'd think that would be a give me, wouldn't you? I mean, you'd think that would just be normal. And then the other thing is to always be considerate of the limitations and the inexperience of their junior and subordinates, people that are under them. And you'd think that would be something that would be a normal thing too, maybe not. All right. Kind of interesting they spell it out though, really. Jane, would you take the next one, please?
I have often reflected that it would be quite useless for me to go to Divinington. I probably should be unable to see any resident beings except such as depersonalized adjusters, and I have seen them elsewhere. I am very sure there is nothing on Divinington of real value or profit to me, nothing essential to my growth and development, or I should not have been forbidden to go there.
Okay, so this is a solitary messenger. He's saying there's really nothing there that would benefit him to go there. So probably no other beings, it would be the same case, right? Okay. Let's keep going. Gary, would you take the next one?
Since we can learn little or nothing of the nature and origin of adjusters from Divinington, we are compelled to gather information from 1,001 different sources, and it is necessary to assemble, associate, and correlate this accumulated data in order that such knowledge may be informative.
Informative. Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
performative. Yeah, it's kind of interesting that they don't have like a standard book of Divinington. They have everything to teach us. You know, they have to gather it from a lot of different places to know anything about it. So that's kind of interesting in
Kind of
itself.
sounds like Divinington is God's place where he keeps the CIA.
Yeah. That would be one way to look at it, I guess. You think you'd call that the DIA though? You know,
Yeah.
divine. Okay. Diane, would you take the next one, please? Too?
The valor and wisdom exhibited by thought adjusters suggests that they have undergone a training of tremendous scope and range. Since they are not personalities, this training must be imparted in the educational institutions of Divinington. The unique personalized adjusters no doubt constitute the personnel of the adjuster training schools of Divinington. And we do know that this central and supervising core is presided over by now personalized adjusters of the first paradise son of the Michael order to complete his sevenfold bestowal upon the races and peoples of his universe realms.
Okay, I'm going to be the devil's advocate here. Not the devil's advocate, but
An advocate.
An advocate. You would think that the adjusters, since they're fragments of God the Father, would be not created, be eventualized with everything they need, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you think so, yeah.
So you would assume that they would not need training of any kind, wouldn't you? Right?
Well,
But Roger,
Yeah.
isn't there, as you were reading this and the paragraph before, the unqualified absolute, and also it's full of potential, but that's all, because everything has yet to happen.
Yes, with the unqualified. Well, with the unqualified absolute, that's the beginning of everything and the end of everything at the same time, right? Because the unqualified absolute is necessary for the primordial matter to start, right? And in the universes. And yet it's also there for the last of the outer space levels to be finished, for the divinity to be finished. So in this paragraph, the only thing I can figure out why this would be required that they be trained is it mentions here that the personalized adjuster, the first son, the original Michael. Okay. So in order for the original Michael's personalized adjuster to train these new adjusters coming along, it must be an experiential thing that they have to learn.
Yeah.
well, that's why I was
Right?
Yeah.
similar
And
to the Havana pilgrims.
Yes.
Although they're
Yeah.
perfect, they
They're
lack.
evolving too.
They lack experience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
And
evolving.
it's evolving,
Yeah.
right? Because if that were not the case, this would not make any sense at all, would it?
Well,
If you think about it, because these are father fragments. They're already perfect. So what else would they need except experience, right? So that's why I approached it this way. Because the first time I read this, I thought, what? These are fragments of God.
yeah.
They're already perfect, right? But it's the experience from the very first personalized adjuster of a creator son, if you think about it. That
You know what,
trained
Roger?
them.
Our Heavenly Father is so perfect, there's no error.
Yeah.
So maybe they had to be trained to recognize error. It's something that's alien.
That could be the case too, Rodney. That could very well be the case, right? Because if you have something perfect that's never experienced anything imperfect, it wouldn't know how to handle it. And then you take this perfection and you plug it into a barbarian that's
Yeah,
got no perfection. You know,
Lordy.
it's a pretty rough starting place.
They have to teach them to be patient.
Yeah. Really.
That's it right there.
Patience, patience, patience. What's a doctor without patience? Right? Okay. So here we have the training schools in Divinington and the thought adjusters going through their training. Okay. And this is what's considered their home. All right. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. We really know very little about the non-personalized adjusters. We only contact and communicate with the personalized orders. These are christened on Divinington and are always known by name and not by number. The personalized adjusters are permanently domiciled on Divinington. That sacred sphere is their home. They go out from that abode only by the will of the Universal Father. Very few are found in the domains of the local universes, but large numbers are present in the central universe.
I want to bring up a point about this too that's kind of interesting. They're known by name, not by number. Okay. So it's
All the names.
interesting. They all have names. So it makes you wonder, is the name that they give us when we fuse with our adjuster, is that the adjuster's previous name? Good question.
I would think so, huh?
Yeah.
You
it
mean
would
like
make sense.
my name would be in heaven?
Your name would be whatever it is. So Gary, you may not be, when you fuse with your adjuster, you may be Fred. I'm
Oh,
just
then he won't
pulling
be
something.
Gary.
I will, yeah, I may be Gary. That's right.
He may be Gary. Oh my God. No wonder he doesn't want to hang around.
All right. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. I believe Letch is up again. Oops. There we go. Letch.
Oh, okay. Nature and presence of adjusters. To say that a thought adjuster is divine is merely to recognize the nature of origin. It is highly probable that such purity of divinity embraces the essence of the potential of all attributes of deity, which can be contained within such a fragment of the absolute essence of the universal presence of the eternal and infinite Paradise Father.
Okay, y'all have 6 years. I could explain this
Yeah.
paragraph. It's so deep. It is.
Oh.
There's so much in here because they're talking about the nature of the thought adjuster itself and the purity of divinity within that adjuster itself. So how pure the divinity is compared to the Father himself. And even though it's a fragment of God the Father, it would be different than the whole.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. So what they're talking about is fragmented deity. And even though it's a fragmented deity, it's still part of the original eternal and infinite Paradise Father. So you can't separate the two, right? So it's like a less, you know, you asked before, Rodney, about a mini-me. This may be an example. Yeah, it's like a mini God. It's a fragment of God that's within you. Makes sense? So
That's quite a gift.
it's quite a gift.
It
Yeah.
is.
A piece of himself. You know, when you think about it, though, when you have children, okay? When you have children, the mother and the father come together and each one of them gives them a part of themselves, right? To make that child. So in essence, we become mini me's of both our mother and our father. Okay, a
Correct.
combination of both. And so you retain that personality traits of them in some ways, but you're still unique in your own ways. Okay. So if you hate your mother and father, you just have to control those parts you hate, right? That's all there is to it. Okay. Let's go on to the next one here. Pam, I think you're up next.
The actual source of the adjuster must be infinite, and before fusion with the immortal soul of an evolving mortal, reality of the adjuster must border absolutes. Adjusters are not absolutes in the universal sense, in the deity sense, but they are probably true absolutes within the potentialities of their fragmented nature. They are qualified as to causality, but not as to nature. In extensiveness, they are limited, but in intensiveness of meaning, value, and fact, they are absolute. For this reason, we sometimes denominate divine gifts as the qualified absolute fragments of
The father, right?
yes.
There's a lot in this one too, but it's interesting to say before fusion, before they fuse with the immortal soul, the evolving mortal, right? They already border on absoluteness. Okay. So they're given everything to be eventually absolute within themselves. But in the universal sense, they have to earn that absoluteness by fusing with a human being or with a soul. Okay. And then after they fuse with their soul, that absoluteness literally has to grow within that soul. The soul has to learn how to be absolute. Okay. So this takes billions and billions and billions years. So in meanings and values they already are absolute, but in an experience, they have to grow to absoluteness. Does that make sense? So that's why they're saying here that to us, they denominate the gifts, the thought adjusters, as the qualified, quote, quote, qualified absolute fragments of the Father. So they're absolute fragments, but they're qualified in the sense that they're still growing. Does that make sense? Did I lose everybody?
A little bit.
So it's a growth thing.
It is.
Huh? Thing to think about.
Yeah, it is. It's a growth thing.
Mm.
So I don't know how I can explain that to make it any more clear, because it's pretty complicated to start out with. All right. Jane, I think you're up next.
Okay. No adjuster has ever been disloyal to the Paradise Father. The lower orders of personal creatures may sometimes have to contend with disloyal fellows, but never the adjusters. They are supreme and infallible in their supernal sphere of creature ministry and universe function.
Okay, this is interesting because you think about it. Once a mortal fuses with the adjuster, they never rebel after that. Okay. That's why up to the point of fusion, there's always a possibility that the mortal part of the pair could rebel.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's why they had to ask every single ascending mortal on the system capital whether they would be loyal to Jesus or not, whether they would be loyal to Michael. Okay. They had to, every being had to make the choice. There's no way around that. When you have rebellion, a choice has to be made. And that is also why once fusion occurs once you become one with divinity or one with that adjuster. There's no chance that you would ever rebel again. And why is that? God the Father's not going to rebel against himself, right?
Roger, I'm surprised they didn't say that it's impossible for the adjuster to
To
rebel against.
rebel.
It's
Yeah.
like you're rebelling against yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's impossible.
Well, if you think about it, Rodney, it would rip your psyche apart.
Yeah.
You know, if you tried to rebel against yourself or against God, once you fuse with that adjusters, it would be totally impossible because you'd have to separate again.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's not possible once you've fused with that adjuster. Okay. Pretty important stuff. Let's go on to the next one. Gary, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Non-personalized adjusters are visible only to personalized adjusters. My order, these solitary messengers, together with inspired Trinity spirits, can detect the presence of adjusters by means of spiritual reactive phenomena, and even seraphim can sometimes discern the spirit luminosity of supposed association with the presence of monitors in the material minds of men, but none of us are able actually to discern the real presence of adjusters, not unless they have been personalized, albeit their natures are perceivable in union with the fused personalities of the ascending mortals from the evolutionary worlds. The universal invisibility of the adjusters is strongly suggestive of their high and exclusive divine origin and nature.
So they're on a level that's so far higher than everyone else, a different reality, if you would, than everything else that you couldn't ever discern them. Make sense? So that's how high they are. But it's interesting that once they invade the psyche of a human being, the seraphim can sometimes discern their spirit luminosity within the mind of men. So the seraphim, because I guess their jobs have to know whether this being that they're assigned to is actually got a thought adjuster or not. And so that's probably why the seraphim can discern them, but the higher orders of beings can't at all.
Roger, I have a question.
Yeah.
Back before Jesus came to this planet,
Yeah.
even up until that time, there were some unfortunate humans that were possessed by a rebellious midwayer
Right.
or a demon.
Demons. Yeah.
Obviously, those type of people did not have an adjuster, because how could someone with an adjuster be possessed by a rebellious creature?
They can't.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, you can't have evil and divinity in the same space.
Yeah, I don't.
Okay. Yeah, they can't occupy the same being. Okay. And so that's one of the reasons why, you remember I've told y'all many times before that after Pentecost, not only were all the rebellious spirits taken off to prison, the prison world, Father's prison world, but it made possession impossible. Okay.
Yes.
That's why they say in the book, all the things that we say, people doing evil things like they were possessed, is all the insanity of human beings themselves. Okay, they embraced evil themselves, because the thought adjuster will not dwell the same being. Now, let me bring one other point here that's very important. If you embrace evil, okay, completely in your life, the thought adjuster can be released. Y'all know that, right?
And there
So, yeah, there you go. So if you choose to follow Satan, if you choose to follow Lucifer, and you embrace iniquity, the cosmos considers you cosmically insane, cosmically insanity. Okay. And once you've embraced that cosmic insanity, the adjuster can be released from you as a person, because there's no possibility of you ever coming back.
nothing salvageable.
Nothing salvageable. They call this in the Urantia book what? The Walking Dead. And they say there are beings on this planet that are walking dead. They are still walking around with the physical body alive, but it's just a matter of time till their body gives out and then they cease to exist, because
Right.
there's nothing salvageable about them.
Hmm.
Okay. And occasionally in life, you will run across people like this.
Oh, I have.
You know, everybody at one time in their life has probably ran across someone that's cosmically insane, and they have nothing salvageable about them. I know I have before.
How can you identify?
You broke up, Gary. How can you what?
How could you identify them? What-
It's an
I mean,
innate. It's an
I knew a
innate.
guy that
It's an innate sense, Gary. When you meet someone like that, all you can do is think, I got to get away from this person.
Yes.
It's
Feel
an
their
innate
evil.
feeling. Yeah, it is. You don't want nothing to do with them. You just want to get away from them
Yeah.
Just knew they're bad. Yeah.
because they're bad.
Mhm.
They're the epitome of evil,
Mhm.
you know? And you ask me this, I will tell you that these people that are following Satan and the devil worshiping and things like that, they're on their way to cosmic insanity if they're not already there. Okay. Because you can't live a holy life and an evil life in the same body.
What about people like Putin, or people that,
I wouldn't call that cosmic insanity. I would call that insanity by itself, because they're self-centered.
self-centered?
Now, it's just a short step from that to cosmic insanity, right? Because he may be salvageable. You know, just like people always say, well, what about Hitler? Would he make it to the mansion worlds? I kind of doubt it,
I
but,
hope not.
but he could have, you know, if he made that decision that he believed in God and he was going to be there, he would have the opportunity to rehabilitation, because even Satan has the opportunity of rehabilitation, even Lucifer. Okay. Until they make that final step into that cosmic insanity. And they do that. I mean, beings do that, not only on this planet, in the planet, you know, afterlife too. You know, if people think just because you make it to the mansion world, you're going to go on forever. You're not. You still have to follow the plan. Okay. The first mansion world's only the first step of getting rid of what? The mark of the beast. And to get rid of all that barbarianism, it takes us 7 planets or 7 steps to get there. Okay. It's not something easy to do. So what we grow on this planet, as far as the insanity, we have to eradicate in the next life. Okay. So I got news for y'all. Even though the first mansion world may seem like heaven to us, it's still going to have its challenges.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
We got to deal with people that are barely able to make it there. And
Roger,
what is our job? That's our job when we get there, right?
Roger,
Yeah.
I mean, even on the mansion world, the first or second one, if we choose not to survive, we still have that choice, correct?
Yeah,
Mm,
up to the day of fusion,
yeah,
up to
Even-
the yeah, even when you're in heaven, you can choose not to survive. Even the children, the children that died that never, some of them doesn't have adjusters, they get to the worlds where they take care of the babies and stuff. Between 16 and 18 years of age,
they have to make a
they
choice.
even have to make that decision of survival. Okay. They don't get away with just staying there permanently. They have to be trained and they have to make their survival decision. It says right there in the book that they have to do that. So part of your job, if you've had a child that died and you get to the mansion worlds, most of your first few years are going to be training that child for survival.
Mm.
It's the most important step you have,
Yeah.
right? That's what we're supposed to do. That's how we help each other, right? Up to that fusion. That fusion is so, so important. I can't stress it enough. And people don't realize that, this life is really a training sphere, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
It's training us to get ready for our real life. And the closer we can get to a spiritual reality and the closer we can get to that spiritual life, the better off we're going to be in the next life. Okay. It's really funny because when I was a young man, and I'm going to make a confession. When I was a young man, I always thought that because I was so religious minded, that I was going to miss out on something in my life. You think about this and you look at it this way, when you're a young man person, your hormones are going crazy. All you can think about is girls half the time. You're trying to study religion and you're still thinking about girls, and all these things that come into your life that keep you from doing the things you should be doing. Okay. It's fun to go out and dance and chase girls and act like an idiot and, do all these things. But that's part of growing up. So the trick is this. Learning a balance from a very young age to know what is important and what's not important. Because when I was young, when I was in the Navy, first got in the Navy, I kept thinking, I got to get out every night and do something to make my life fun, So we'd go out dancing and we'd go, to parties and have fun with each other. And even when I'd get down, I was at the school studying religion. When I'd get done with the religion, I'd go out and party with the guys and stuff. I wasn't a drinker or anything like that, but you like the experience of having the companionship and that sort of thing. So that's part of growing up. But the tricky part is if you're trained young enough, when these things come up, you start to discern what is good, what is right, and what is important and what is not. Okay. And those things that are not important start to fall away a little bit at a time when you're growing up. It doesn't happen immediately. I dedicated my life to God. Actually, at 16, I actually did it at 12 years old. When I was baptized, a Mormon, when I was 12 years old, I made a decision that I was going to follow God as a Mormon. Okay. That's all I knew was the Mormon church back then. That was the only thing that I'd ever been exposed to that was a family. Okay. So that's why I joined the Mormon church. When I got 16, I got rebaptized a Baptist, because I rededicated my life again to God. I knew I was going to be a preacher, right? At 17, I got in the Navy. And by 18, I discovered the Urantia Book and everything was turned upside down, right? But you can see the progression. I was going in the right direction, but I had all these things along the way and decisions to make to increase my spiritual life. And if I had not stuck with the Urantia book, my spiritual life would have been this full. You see my fingers? Can y'all see that?
Yes.
This full. My spiritual life at this point, at 68 years old, I would be this full. Okay. Right now, at 68 years old, I'm this full. Okay. That's the difference. When I get to the mansion world, the first mansion world, I'll be this full. And by the time I fuse, I hope I won't be able to pull my hands far enough apart. You see what I'm saying? It's a growing experience, but it doesn't happen overnight. Nothing happens overnight. You make a commitment at one moment, but that affects your life for the rest of your life. If you think about it. That's why Jesus would say, let's go out and save some souls, didn't he? He wanted people to make that first final decision. Okay. And that's what this whole life's about, is making that first final decision. Well, I'm getting long-winded. Okay, so let's go on to the next one. I don't even remember who read last now.
Audrey.
Oh, it's your time.
I
Huh?
think I read last.
Okay, well, if that's the case, Gary's turn then.
I thought Gary just,
Gary, did you just read? Gary? Gary?
You're maybe 68, I'm 78. Okay, so my memory's not that good.
Go ahead and read, Diane.
There's a
Oh, are you gonna do it? Okay. He's
yes.
gonna-
I don't
Okay.
care. I enjoy it.
Okay, go ahead. And do it.
I think I did
You did this read.
You did
Okay,
this
it's Diane's turn.
read.
Okay.
Okay. There is a characteristic light, a spirit luminosity, which accompanies this divine presence and which has become generally associated with thought adjusters. In the universe of Nebadon, this paradise luminosity is widespreadly known as the pilot light. On Uversa, it is called the light of life. On Urantia, this phenomenon has sometimes been referred to as that true light which lights every man who comes into the world.
Remember Jesus saying, let your light shine? This is what he's talking about. Your spirit luminosity, your pilot light, right? Don't hide your light under the bushel. Let it shine. Okay. You know why people don't let their light out? One word. Fear.
Fear. Mhm.
Okay. They're afraid they're going to get criticized. They're afraid their friends won't think that they're friends anymore. They'll all these ridiculous fears that have nothing to do with life, right?
Mhm.
If you have people that criticize you because you believe in God, they aren't your friends,
That's right.
Mhm.
right?
That's
You
right.
don't need them as friends. That's as plain as I can say it. Okay. That light of life. Okay, Rodney, you're up.
Okay. To all beings who have attained the Universal Father, the personalized thought adjusters are visible. Adjusters of all stages, together with all other beings, entities, spirits, personalities, and spirit manifestations, are always discernible by those supreme creator personalities who originate in the paradise deities and who preside over the major governments of the grand universe.
So when you make it all the way up to the top and you've met the Universal Father, your light will shine so bright that everyone will always recognize you, the light of the world, right? The light of lights. It's that spirit luminosity. They will know that it's you. All right. This is a big question. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. Can you really realize the true significance of the adjuster's indwelling? Do you really fathom what it means to have an absolute fragment of the absolute and infinite deity, the universal Father, indwelling and fusing with your finite mortal natures? When mortal man fuses with an actual fragment of the existential cause of the total cosmos, no limit can ever be placed upon the destiny of such an unprecedented and unimaginable partnership. In eternity, man will be discovering not only the infinity of the objective deity, but also the unending potentiality of the subjective fragment of this same God. Always will the adjuster be revealing to the mortal personality the wonder of God, and never can this supernal revelation come to an end, for the adjuster is of God, and as God to mortal man.
Okay, so it never stops, always expanding, right?
Yeah.
So if you think you're going to get to the mansion worlds and it all stops, I got news for you, it doesn't. Okay, it just keeps going on and on and on and on. And we're going to stop right there tonight because we're at a new section and I don't want to break up our thought patterns here.
But Roger,
Yes.
what Letch just read, that's what Jesus taught us, to become conscious of that, to be conscious that you are a son of God.
You are a son of God. That's right.
All about.
Yeah. That God consciousness, right?
So he taught us to be conscious of that adjuster.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And listen to that adjuster. That's why you call it, what do you think they call it? A thought adjuster, right? It adjusts your thoughts and life to make you more spiritual, right? You know, you talk about people, it's kind of funny because people are always searching in their life for something, right? They're searching for this, they're searching for that. And I keep hearing people say, we're constantly searching for God. I think it's the other way around. I think God is constantly searching for us because he's revealing himself to us in our minds constantly. Okay. So it works both ways. You seek God and God seeks you, and you don't have to go outside your own psyche to find it. That's what's so amazing. You know, you don't have to go meditate in the mountain. You don't have to go to Mars looking for God, you know, as they say, for God's sakes, he's inside you. Right.
I always liked Christ, I forget exactly what he said, but he said that your goodness should know no bounds. And so I think, in effect, when you do that, you're becoming godlike, and that's your mission in life, to do that with everybody.
That's right. Mm-hmm. You're right. You're right. You're 100% right. Okay. Well, we made it to the end of the night, 6:56. So let's have a prayer tonight and we'll close for tonight. Rodney, would you like to close us in prayer tonight?
Sure.
Feel inspired?
Gracious Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for this wonderful revelation, the Urantia book. And we very much appreciate this subject on the thought adjuster and what it means to us. And we thank you, Father, for Roger's ability to explain these difficult passages to us. And we hope to be able to relate this information to family and friends. And we say all this in the name of your Son, Michael Leviton, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
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 And I want to tell y'all something interesting before everybody signs off tonight. We've been hearing so much stuff about this artificial intelligence and stuff. I've been studying up on it quite a bit lately. I did something unusual this week. I went out and turned on Chat GPT on one of my computers and started it asking questions about the Urantia book. Okay. And the responses I got were really interesting. And pretty much they were right on the money. You know, I asked it to summarize paper 44 for me and give me a little paragraph, and it was pretty close. It really was. And the other thing is I asked it was, what are the origins of the Urantia book?
Really?
You know? Yeah.
Mhm.
That was an interesting response too. I'll let y'all go out if you want to go look it up yourself. You can ask it a few questions, but you know, there is a possibility that some of this artificial intelligence can be beneficial to us, you know,
Sure.
if we control it properly, right?
Where did you go, Roger? Where'd you go?
Huh? It's
Where'd
called,
you go?
it's just a program you can download on the Apple. It's called Chat GPT. The third version of it is free. If you go to the fourth version of it, you have to pay for it because the fourth version of it's connected to the internet and the third version is not. I just went to the third version and I wanted to find out if it already had the information from the Urantia book in the third version because it's not attached to the internet. And it did have the information from the Urantia book in the third version.
The whole book had been reported.
The whole book, someone had uploaded it into that version because I could ask it questions about different papers. You know, you have to be specific what you ask it. But I asked it to summarize paper 44 and it gave me a good paragraph. It talked about the celestial artisan. Then I turned around and asked it, what is a celestial artisan? And it was exactly right on the money.
That's cool.
So, yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
So it's reassuring in some ways because you hear nothing but bad things about the artificial intelligence, how it wants to take over the world and kill men and that sort of stuff. But there is another side to it. So it's all about reprogramming it to control it's really what it's about. It's what you put in it is what you're going to get out of it.
It goes back to what I've been saying for a long time. We are not ready for a world order, one world order, till we are spiritually ready. And I think the same thing applies to artificial intelligence because it evolved around the integrity of the person programming it, building the program, etc. If that has evil in it, you're going to get that.
You're going to get evil back. Yeah, I think what we're dealing with is trying to get the cart in front of the horse, right? That's what we're doing, you know. And so we'll see how this all plays out. But I have started getting all my old programming skills. You know, I took programming years and years ago, and I have started reviewing some of my programming skills because I was ready to start programming things myself to try to straighten some of this out, you know. So, you know, I just don't have enough time to do everything. That's what
Can
it
you
boils down
send
to.
link to that there Apple chat?
It's called, it's, you can download it on the App Store with Apple. It's called Chat GPT. You can also download it with Microsoft on the Microsoft Store. It's Chat GPT. And it's a artificial intelligence. It responds to questions, basically. It's got a pretty good database on it. So if you want to pay for it, you can get the one that's already connected to the internet. And of course, it's going to have multiple databases attached to that one. So Chat GPT. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll see how this works out. I just want to reassure people that there's always hope, you know, there's hope in everything. So, okay. So that takes care of us tonight. Let me stop the Facebook live. If I can find the right things here. Stop recording.